boiler, which is a multi-tube heat exchanger. The valid phases here are vapor liquid. We expect the vapor to go to the top of the column, the liquid to go to the bottom. In some cases, if the liquid phase contains two immiscible liquids, we could pick this vapor liquid. Okay? But again, this is not an issue that we have. This becomes an issue if you have liquids that have different densities, okay? Which we do not in this case. So we'll just pick the default as vapor liquid. The last one that says convergence, this basically reflects the numerical method that Aspen is going to use to solve the equations for the distillation column. Okay? Again, standard is good enough, but if you have specific components like petroleum, where there is a wide range of boiling points, or if you have non-ideal liquid or an azeotrope or very low temperature mixture, you could use these other numerical methods, okay, to ensure better convergence. Okay? They work usually better than the standard one. Okay? But we're going to keep the standard
máy để dùng tập.
Alright, two very important specifications, okay, that you want to choose to make the column run. Of course, you have a long list, okay? So, which one do you pick? Usually, Aspen works well if you specify flow rates, okay? Aspen has an easier time running the numerical calculations if you give it flow rate specifications instead of mass fraction or mole fraction. If you tell Aspen, I want 99 weight percent or mass fraction of 0.99 methyl acetate, say in the distillate or in the bottoms, it may not actually work. But if you tell Aspen, I want this much flow rate, okay, then it's easier to do that calculation. So the two specifications that are commonly used are the distillate rate, it could also be the bottoms rate, and the other one is the reflux ratio. Okay? So what's the reflux ratio?
Giống hai bánh mèo thay luôn ít các bạn.
If you look at that
Giống phải luôn.
figure on the board, in terms of the symbols, what's the reflux ratio?
Thì là cái topic bài báo nó ghi vào.
L over?
Giấc ngủ là quan trọng.
No, L over D. Okay? The reflux ratio is the flow rate of the liquid that is returned to the column
xong bị mẹ ta chửi ta bị lộ
to the distillate amount. Okay? Now L plus D has to equal V, just by a mass balance, right? Mole balance. All right, so let's go back. Do we want to pick distillate or do we want to pick bottoms rate for the specification? Well, it depends on what you're expecting. Let's go back to the main flow sheet. Okay? What do we expect from this separation to happen? Remember, this stream here contains all the components, right? Methanol, acetic acid, methyl acetate, water, sulfuric acid. And we would like this column to force methyl acetate and methanol to go to the top, right? So let's look at the flow rates of these components. This is just an initial guess. Okay, so how much in terms of mass? How much methanol is coming into the column? Say 300. How much methyl acetate is coming? 13,700, right? So in a perfect world, I want only these two components to make it to the top. So if I add these two flow rates, that will give me approximately what? 1400. No, sorry, 14,000. 14,100. So I can use that number as a specification here. I can say, okay, in terms of mass or on a mass basis, I would like to have 14,000 pounds per hour in the distillate. Okay? That doesn't mean the 14,000 I'm going to get are all going to be just methanol and methyl acetate. But at least initially, in terms of a guess, if I were to guess, I just need to see how much methanol and how much methyl acetates are coming in the feed and use that as the flow rate for the distillate. Okay? Again, it's an initial guess. because you need an initial gas. You need to start somewhere. So we'll start with the best case scenario. If only methyl acetate and methanol end up in the distillate and nothing else, then hopefully the flow rate of methanol and methyl acetate in the feed will equal the distillate flow rate. Okay? The other specification, as I said, is the reflux ratio. And the reflux ratio basically, it's a recycled loop, right? You're returning some of the mixture back to the column to maximize the contact between the liquid and the vapor. Okay? So sometimes by adjusting the reflux ratio, you can get better purity. This is another variable you can play with to try to get a better purity. All right. So we'll come back to these later on, but I just showed you some initial values that we're going to start with. There is another tab here for streams. Here you need to specify where the feed stream comes in. So the column was specified to have 40 trays. Usually we put the feed stream in the middle. But sometimes moving the feed stream up or down can also enhance purity. Okay? Depending on, is the feed stream mostly product or mostly reactants. Okay? So here I specified it as 30. I moved it to the bottom section. Pressure. This is a big deal for the column. Generally, depending on how tall the column is, the pressure is not the same everywhere. Okay? The pressure is lower at the top and higher at the bottom. But if you have only a few stages and the column is not too tall, the pressure difference may not be that significant. Okay? What's important here is what is the top pressure. So this is the condenser pressure. In Aspen, by the way, stage 1 is the condenser. And stage N is the reboiler. So actually when we specify 40 stages, that means 38 trays and 1 condenser and 1 reboiler. Okay? So your specification for the pressure is really this. You're specifying the pressure at which the first stage is. Okay? You could assume that the entire column is at the same pressure. Okay? That is okay as long as the column is not too tall. If you really have a huge column, say like 200 trays, then there is a significant pressure difference between top and bottom, and you have to have that. And the way to specify this is to specify what's called a stage pressure drop. If you leave this empty like this, Aspen will assume that all the stages are at the same pressure. And this is what we're going to assume just to simplify the problem. Okay? So we're going to assume that the pressure is pretty much the same. Now the condenser and the reboiler, we're not going to touch them for now, but I just want to give you a heads up. Later on, when we want to evaluate the costs of the utilities, we're going to have to specify the utility here. For example, what are you using to condense the overhead vapor? Are you using cooling water? Are you using some special coolant? This will have to be specified here. This will allow Aspen to calculate for you the utility usage and the utility cost instead of you calculating it by yourself. Okay? Same thing for the reboiler. The only specification, we're not going to specify it now, is the utility. Okay? Are you using a reboiler that is a furnace? Are you using natural gas? Or are you using a reboiler based on steam? So we will have to specify what utility in this tab so that Aspen can calculate how much steam, for example, you're using and how much that costs. And we'll give you, Aspen will give you a report of all the utilities and the costs associated with it. All right. Okay, so these are the rad frac specifications. Let's go back to the flow sheet. And one thing I want to change actually is the pressure. I'm going to put the column at atmospheric pressure, okay, initially. And I'm going to run it. Okay, so now it runs. Let's look at the results. So we're going to right click and go to stream results and custom stream results. All right. Okay. I'm going to rearrange the columns so that it's easier to visualize. Okay, here we are. So the first column here is the feed to the distillation column. Okay? And this column that says number 2, this is the distillate coming from the top, and 3 is the bottoms, the stream coming out of the reboiler. So let's scroll down and look at the mass flow. All right, let's look at methyl acetate, which is our product. So 13,758 pounds per hour came into the distillation column. Most of it ended up in the distillate. Okay, 13,556. And about 200 went into the bottoms. So those 200 pounds per hour are basically lost. Okay? You can try to minimize this loss, but it's inevitable. You will always have some of your product leave in the other stream. Okay? This is why I said try to overproduce or produce a little bit more than 100 million pounds because you're going to have some losses. Okay? Look at acetic acid. 25,916 came into the feed. Almost, actually all of it went into the bottom. This is 10 to the minus 20, so this is 0. So acetic acid is really very heavy. We got rid of it, it all went to the bottoms. Okay, the other components that also was heavy is the catalyst. We had a 605 pounds per hour come in the feed. All of it went to the bottoms and 0 in the distillate. The two problematic components that are making our life difficult here are the methanol and the water. See what happened to the methanol. 327 came into the feed. Most of it actually ended up in the distillate, okay, as we expected, but not really all of it. This is 195 in the distillate and 132 in the bottoms. So it's not quite 50-50, but close, which means methanol really split between the two. The other one is water. Most of the water went to the bottom. So whatever, 3,345 were in the feed, close to 3,100 in the bottoms, but 248 with the distillate. So now the presence of methanol and the presence of water is obviously going to reduce the purity of methyl acetate. So if you scroll down and you check, this is the purity of methyl acetate in the distillate. So the distillate has, this stream has methyl acetate, has methanol, and it has water. These are the three dominant species, and the mass fraction here is 0.968, so we'll say this is 0.97. So it's actually a pretty good job for the column to purify. Remember, coming in, the mass fraction of methyl acetate was around 30% or 33%. So it was able to purify it to 97%. Of course, you may be tempted to say, we're so close. We just need 0.02, right? To bring it up to 0.99. But you'll find out that no matter what you do to the column, you will not be able to.
Chết mẹ đơ vậy.
So actually, you can try to play with the number of stages configuration tab, right? We said 40, excuse me, 40 stages, right? How about if we add more stages? Okay? Generally speaking, yes, more stages means higher purity. But there's also a maximum. You know, there's a number of stages beyond which you can't really purify anymore. So let's make it 50 and right. Go back. Look at the mass fraction. Remember, 2 is the distillate. Okay? The way Aspen reorders the columns sometimes is annoying, but this is the column of interest to us. What happened to the purity? It went up to 0.969. Do you think adding 10 more trays is worth this increase of 0.001? No. So you probably want to stay at 40. Or can we achieve it with less than 40? If we can do that, this would save us some money. So let's pick 30.
Bọn nước ngoài phải làm quen tao.
Okay, let's go back.
Đi bỏ dưới. Ok, lâu.
Now, what is the mass fraction?
Lâu rồi.
It's too low.
19.4.
What happened to it?
It's too low.
It's too low. It's 80%. So there was something magic about 40. Okay. Of course, it's not magic. It's the result of a sensitivity study. One of the difficult things with Aspen is when you start the simulation, you always ask the question, how do I know what numbers to pick? Okay? There are only 2 ways to do this. Either trial and error, meaning just guess a number, and